Hey y'all, I'm Cassie and I am a North Central Florida gardener, zone 8B/9A. And that 9A is so hard for me to get used to because for so long we were just 8B until all the changes last year. So last week I took y'all on a tour of the entire farmstead, homestead, farm, whatever you want to call it here, because y'all know I can't get used to the term homestead. But today I'm going to take y'all through all of my raised garden bed area and break down what I'm growing and what varieties I'm growing and talk a little bit about each one. So let's go. So this first bed is going to be my squash bed, and at the end I have my indeterminate tomatoes. I only plant determinate tomatoes besides these 4 plants that are right here. These are Cherokee purple on this side, and then on the other side I have large cherry. We primarily eat diced tomatoes and tomato sauce. We do not eat raw tomatoes in our family, so I don't grow many indeterminates because I like how the determinates are already pretty much at the same time so that I can go ahead and can them. In the front of these beds I companion planted with bush beans, and I'm going to have to go back and plant some at the end because they did not sprout. And then I have borage and marigolds planted on the end. This is a white bush scallop. Last year was my first year planting, and I don't see any on that plant, but I think there's some over there, small ones. But last year was my first year planting the scalloped squash, and my kids absolutely love them, and I will do anything to get my kids to eat a squash. And they said that they looked like mini UFOs, so they were obsessed. And then this area I have the yellow scalloped, and then I've already gone in and interplanted more, like you can see one coming up, more squash and succession planted, interplanted, succession planted. You'll see some right there, so that as these possibly die out, or if vine borers, etc., get a hold of them, then I have more coming up. These are the straight-necked squash. These are always a high producing variety for me. It's just the typical yellow straight neck that we grow here in the South. I do grow crook neck, but they will be over in my tomato garden. Again, I've interplanted more. This is my first year growing this variety. I bought this variety from Baker Creek. It's supposed to be vine borer and squash bug resistant. It is the lemon squash, and it has so many on them to me. And then, of course, the stalk, like you'll notice, is completely different than the stalks on the others. It's a much larger stalk, and it actually has tendrils. And I researched, and it could be a vining. This one's not a vine. I'm not going to let them vine, but if you gave it the opportunity, it could possibly vine up a trellis. Started a few years planting in a bunch of pollinator gardens. This one has bachelor's buttons, nasturtiums, calendula or calendula. I'm not sure which way you're supposed to pronounce it. I've heard people pronounce it both ways. My mom purchased me the purple one. I think it was some type of amaranth. I really can't remember. And then I have black-eyed Susans, and I think that's all for that bed. This next bed is going to be my eggplant bed. These are the Black Beauty eggplant on the end. I have the marigolds planted, and then borage. I planted borage for the first time 2 years ago. A lot of people don't like borage because it will reseed and come back, but I have not had a single one reseed from the previous year and come back. So maybe I pull them before they start seeding. I don't know. But these are 2 Black Beauty, and then I came in and I've already succession planted 2 squash plants in here as well that will grow under the Black Beauty eggplants as they begin to get taller. We've just been having really cool nights, which is not typical for this time of year, so they are not growing as rapidly, but as the temps start to heat up, those will start growing more rapidly and tall. It's going to sound so weird, but this is like my prized bed this year is my tomatillo bed. I have 2 tomatillo plants, which is what you need to produce tomatillos, but I do not need any more than that because we literally will only use these for enchilada sauce that I will can, and we probably eat enchiladas 4 to 5 times a year. We don't eat them that often. But I have marigolds planted in the end and borage again. And I think these seeds came from Florida Seed, and they're just the basic green tomatillo, nothing fancy. And I've already planted, in this bed, I planted a bush cucumber on the edges to succession plant. So it'll grow up under the tomatillos. These are my little leaf pickling cucumbers, the little ones right there. And then in the front, I have succession planted squash, and on the end, I have nasturtiums. This bed has a Livingston brand cucumber that I got from Walmart of all places. I think it just said like homemade pickles on it. And then the other one is the National Pickling cucumber that I planted in here. I only plant cucumbers for pickling. You can eat them, of course, as well. A lot of people say, oh my gosh, I tried to make pickles out of cucumbers and they were soggy. Well, that's because they probably were using a slicing cucumber instead of a pickling cucumber. A pickling cucumber tends to have a denser skin and a firmer flesh on the inside, and it holds up better in the canning process. Now in the front of this bed, I also have two small, they're very small, they're starting to grow finally, I think, as the temps warm up, and they are the long purple eggplant. So hopefully they begin to grow before these cucumbers absolutely push them out of this area. But I did plant some long purple eggplant in this as well. Another pollinator garden, and it has a ton of bachelor's buttons and calendula in it and nasturtiums. I think this one also has some salvia in it as well. This is this bed's first year, and it actually fell a lot after I planted in it. And I'd already topped it off like 2 or 3 times, but for whatever reason, it finally started to sink about 2 weeks ago. So it sank a lot, but it has sweet alyssum, coneflowers, salvia, lavender, bachelor's buttons, and there's actually a bachelor button blooming in this, and it is gorgeous. Bachelor's buttons, calendula, however you want to say it, nasturtiums, I think that's it in these. A coneflower, I don't know if I said that one. These next beds are going to all be my pepper beds, and on the ends of them I have a African marigold, and it'll get a lot taller than regular marigolds, and I have zinnias. That way, into June and July, when the peppers really start producing, here in Florida it just gets so hot that my peppers still seem to wilt. So I decided to plant the zinnia and the larger African marigold so that it provided some shade for these in the later months, so that hopefully I can cut down on the wilty plants that I have in the past. And then I've already gone in and, like I said, interplanted, succession planted some squash that I need to actually go in and thin, because it looks like both seeds were on both. This is a jalapeno bed, so in this one is the jalapeno. This is California Wonders. Again, same thing on the ends, and I've already gone in and succession planted. So a California Wonder is a green bell pepper that also, if left on the vine, of course, would turn to orange or red. This is supposed to be my banana pepper bed. I grow banana peppers every year because we love Mississippi pot roast, so I can the banana pepper rings for Mississippi pot roast. But my chickens decided to tear this bed up, and so they tore up one, so I'm going to have to go buy one because I have no more started. And then, of course, I just have marigolds and zinnias on the end of it as well. The always controversial herb gardens, because I plant mine all in one space because I like to be organized sometimes. And so I plant all my herbs in one place instead of planting them all over the garden. But I do have catnip and mint in their own pot, so that hopefully they do not spread, because they are both so invasive. Also on this, I have some snap peas growing up. I think you can see it better from the other side. This is my strawberry garden. I have, these are Parisian pickling cucumbers growing up this side, and snap peas again. This is this bed's second year. I get so aggravated with strawberries every year. I never plant them in a good place where I want to leave them. So I'm trying to not dig them up this year, and I'm going to leave them and let them go into their third year. They are producing some decent sized strawberries this year, so that's a plus. And maybe my ADHD won't kick in and I won't go crazy and dig them up because they get on my nerves. But so this is going to be my designated strawberry bed. I'm just going to let them kind of take over it for the next 2 to 3 years and see how they produce. So this bed is my zucchini and garlic bed. In the winter, I use a living mulch, which is just instead of using something like straw or hay that can have a lot of seed in it, I actually go ahead and plant a seed. So I use white clover as a living mulch, and it's worked really well for me the past 2 or 3 years. So in this bed, I have two types of garlic. This was my first year planting garlic. So I just bought the Keen's First Time Garlic Growers package, and it came with like a red Creole and some other variety that I do not know how to pronounce, but it looks to me like they're already bulbing, so that's a good sign. This is my second year growing this type of zucchini. It's a golden zucchini. This one on the end has the green variegated fruit, and the other two are just the golden, but this is my second year growing it, and it did really well last year. So, and this is not powdery mildew. The leaves are just variegated in this variety. I have a cantaloupe growing right here in the middle, and then the next variety that I grew is a Black Beauty. Black Beauty always does insanely well here. I've already picked like 4 or 5 fruits, and you'll see it's so much ahead of the rest. But I've already picked 4 or 5 fruits off of the Black Beauty zucchinis. And then this is my first year growing this variety. It's a Cocozelle, and everybody was going on and on about it. So I bought the seeds. One of them didn't get pollinated, but it's already got a fruit on it. So I will have to update y'all and let y'all know how we like it. I planted 3 of these, and this is the only one that took off and thrived. The next one is much smaller, and the one on that side died. So I have reseeded these, and I'm going to think that maybe it's just the cooler temps that it didn't like, or maybe it just doesn't like my garden, so we won't grow it again next year. But those are the 3 varieties of zucchini that I'm growing this year. Oh, and I grew a watermelon. There's a watermelon taking off in here. So I just kind of interplant and crop things, so you'll notice it's kind of chaotic throughout all the raised beds. Just kind of a breakdown of what I grow in my raised beds here in North Central Florida. As always, if you have questions, ask them in the comment, and I will see y'all next time.